Welcome to Weaseljaw Digital. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different, and we're going to go through some ship builds. Specifically, we're going to be looking at the A-Wing in this video. The A-Wing is the Rebel interceptor ship. It is faster, well-armed, and quite a lot weaker than anything else they have. So, start off here, we want to customize this ship. As you can see here, it's only got a max hull of 750 with only 500 in shields. That gives you a combined health of 1250, with only 500 of that is regenerable. Max speed of 160 is pretty quick, max acceleration of 196 is pretty fast, and it's very maneuverable with an 80 score there. So what you want to do with this fighter is really prep it out to be an anti-fighter ship. It's not the best at taking on capital ships. It doesn't have anything that can do massive damage to capital ships. So, in our main weapon array, we have 4 choices. There is the standard laser cannon, which is fine. It's not great, it's not bad, it's run-of-the-mill. It's probably an easier weapon for rookies to use. If you're new to the game, sticking with this laser cannon for a bit's not bad. It gives you a long, sustained rate of fire so that you can really focus in on taking those shots. Has a range of 1,000 meters, which is pretty good. At that kind of range, though, it's hard to hit anything that's moving fast. You really have to lead it and lead it well. Next up is your Plasburst laser cannon. This is a charged weapon and it has a very close range. The range I don't really mind so much. Has high damage. It's the charge factor that I really don't care for. It's not a great weapon. Having to charge it, not being able to control when you really want to fight because you have to charge the weapon to shoot and everything, is not great. Next up is our ion cannon. Really high ion damage. 1680 DPS is pretty impressive. Range of 1,000 meters again, so it has decent range. This will drain enemy shields and will shut down enemy ship systems. So if you use it against fighters, the only thing it's going to do, since you're going to be fighting Imperial fighters, is shut them down. Unless you're going for their support ship, in which case you'll drain the shields first, then you'll work on shutting their ship down. When you're shooting them, you'll see a little blue bar go around them. Once that bar is full, their ship actually is disabled and is just floating free in space. If you have a teammate that can take them out, or you have some other weapon systems, this can be an interesting fighting style. It's quite annoying to get disabled in battle, but it's not the most effective at actually taking things out. The ion weapons are very powerful against capital ships to remove those shields, but again, our A-Wing's not a capital ship killer. That brings us to my favorite, the rapid fire cannon. The DPS is higher than your laser cannon, shoots extremely fast, fairly limited ammo capacity, and a very short range of 600 meters. And that's its biggest weakness, is that range. However, most combat is going to happen within a couple hundred meters. Sure, at 1,000 meters, you can take some long-range pot shots. You can try to do some damage. But most pilots are going to be able to escape from that or maneuver around to where you're just not going to be very accurate. Once you're within 600 meters, you're a lot closer. And that's where this rapid-fire cannon really excels. So, we're going to throw that on. Left auxiliary. Just straight up, if you can take a repair kit, you're going to take a repair kit. We're not even going to change that. We're going to leave that as is right now. That brings us to the right auxiliary option. Your default is the quick lock missiles, and honestly, it's one of the better options for anti-fighter combat. They do have the Seeker Mine, which does a great deal of damage, but it only lasts for 10 seconds. Arming range is 200 meters. It's got a 9-second cooldown. So there's a long cooldown between uses. The mine will only last for 10 seconds before it deteriorates and it's gone. And an enemy ship has to get really close to it. The few times this really comes in handy is when someone is on your tail in a dogfight. You can drop one of these mines, the mine will go after them, do a considerable amount of damage. It can, take out some ships if they've taken any damage. Because of its limited use of really only being good in dogfights, it's not my favorite thing in the world. The barrage rockets serve a purpose for this ship, but not in this build. Remember, this build we're going for anti-fighters. This barrage rocket is a dumbfire weapon. Sure, you can fire it fast, but it doesn't guide. It doesn't track enemy ships. So it's really only going to shoot straight ahead, and rarely ever are you going to have that kind of situation. The one potential use for this is if you do go with the ion weapons, the barrage rockets do great damage, and you can really tear through enemy units. Next up is the cluster missile. This is one that I kind of have a love-hate relationship with. The cluster missile will lock 4 missiles on the same target. It takes 0.8 seconds, or just shy of a second, for each one of those locks to happen in succession, though. So it's 0.8 seconds, you get one lock. 0.8 seconds, you get the second. 0.8 seconds, you get the third. Another 0.8 seconds, you get the fourth. Now that brings you to over a 3-second lock time to get all 4. If you get all 4 locked on a target, you're going to do a considerable amount of damage. But it takes a long time to get those locked. And it's only a medium homing weapon. Whereas the quick lock missiles, which only take 1.3 seconds to lock, they have strong homing. They'll follow the target a lot harder. It's a lot harder to shake a quick lock than it is one of these cluster missiles, sorry. And most missile defense systems can take down cluster missiles anyways. So I find that this is just too slow of an operating weapon for anti-fighter maneuvers. Next up, you have the Carbonte targeting jammer. It temporarily hides you from enemy radar so that you can get closer to AI ships without being attacked. Yeah, again, we're not working on the capital ships. We're trying to take out enemy fighters. So that leaves our default of the quick lock missile as really good. 375 damage, 1.3 second lock time, only a 4-second cooldown, and strong homing. At 1,000 meters, this is a great weapon. This thing comes in very handy. Countermeasures, if you have the Seeker warheads, use the Seeker warheads. Your range is 750 meters with these. They can take down 2 targets. Fairly long cooldown, but you do have 4 uses. These things will save your butt more times than you can imagine. Your other options are your particle burst, which just drops a cloud of chaff basically behind you. It has a large area of effect. The lifespan is only 3 seconds. 9-second cooldown, only 3 uses. The only time it's good for you is if you fly in a straight line. If you get a missile lock on you, you pull the trigger on your particle burst and you fly in a straight line, it'll protect you from the missile. Unless that missile's coming from in front of you or from beside you. It's really only good in a dogfighting situation where someone is on your tail and firing a missile at you. The sensor jammer, all locked on missiles lose you as a target and no one can lock on you for a duration of 4 seconds, is interesting, but it only has 1 use and a long cooldown. It's okay, but not something I like to use. The sensor inverter is an interesting one, but difficult to use. 300 meter area of effect, so the missile has to be fairly close to you. It's got a long cooldown of 18 seconds and only 2 uses. What is interesting though is it corrupts the missile, which means the missile then fires back at whoever shot it at you. This can be clutch, it can be really interesting and fun to see in effect, but the number of times it's really useful isn't that great. That's why the Seeker warheads are a great anti-missile defense. That's your default, stick with it. The hull. There's a couple choices here, and this is one where it's hard to say. You got to kind of weigh your choices here. The Lama steel hull reduces auxiliary damage, so reduces your missile damage, increases primary damage. That to me is not a good trade-off. What we're hoping for is that we're going to blow up all our missiles with the Seekers, so we're hoping not to take a lot of secondary damage. The Fabritech dampening hull is one that I like. You lose 10% of your health, which is a pretty small price to pay. Hostile lock time for those missiles is 100% increase. So it now takes twice as long for someone to lock their missiles on you, which means missiles happen far less often. Missiles happening less often means less use of your anti-missile systems. It's a pretty good trade-off there. It's one I like to use on almost anything that can mount it. The Reflect hull prevents enemies from targeting you at long range, but your hull integrity is lower. So you lose health, but you have more stealth range. It's passive stealth. I don't find it all that useful. That's why for our A-Wings, I almost always go with this dampener hull. I'm willing to sacrifice the health to make missile lock-ons more difficult. Shields. I really don't like many of the shields in this game. I don't find that the trade-offs are often worth it. Your overloaded shield is a reduction in your shield regeneration for a decrease in primary and auxiliary damage taken. So you're going to reduce the amount of damage you take from blasters and from missiles. That being said, your shield regeneration is severely reduced by 75%. One of the big things for the Rebels is that those shields do regenerate. You can flip it over to power your shields, regenerate them really nice and quickly. When you lower that regeneration, you're taking away your own survivability. And I don't think that's a good deal. On top of that, if your shield is completely depleted, you no longer regen shields. So then you're just totally exposed. The Nimble Deflector increases shield regeneration, which is great, but lowers the max shields by 30%, which is a huge reduction in your shields. Shields often make close to half of your health for most of the Rebel ships, and reducing that by 30% is a lot of health gone. Next is your Fabritech Scrambler Shield. It slows hostile lock times by another 200%. Now, I don't know how that stacks, or if it's a multiplication or an additional kind of stack on top of the hull. I would assume it's probably an additional stack. So this would overall increase hostile lock time by 300%. That would be impressive. However, your shield regeneration delay is increased by 200%. That means it takes far longer for your shields to start regenerating after you take damage. Once your shields take damage, and then they stop being damaged for a short period of time, they'll start regenerating. This then increases that gap in time. This again lowers your health over the long course of the battle dramatically because you're having less shield regeneration time. So with that in mind, I don't like it. We already are increasing the missile lock time, so I really don't see why we want to use this one too. So I tend to leave my shields as just the plain deflector shields. Engines is another interesting one. You have the thrust engine, which increases your speed. And you already have a really fast ship here, but it lowers your acceleration and maneuverability. I don't find that to be a great trade-off. Reason is, speed is not important in a dogfight. This is an anti-fighter ship. Having lots of speed, fine, you can get into the battle quicker. You can try to escape from situations faster. But you lower your acceleration and your maneuverability, which means in a dogfight, you're going to get outmaneuvered very quickly, very easily, and that's not good for you. Your propulsion engine increases your acceleration, but lowers your maneuverability. So again, you can go from 0 to full speed real quick, which is pretty nice, but you're sacrificing maneuverability. If this was at a sacrifice of speed, I would probably consider it, but with the loss of maneuverability, again, I need to stay maneuverable so I can get behind targets and stay on target. That brings us to the micro thrust engine. This one increases maneuverability by 30% while lowering our acceleration and our max speed. In a dogfight, max speed is not very useful. Acceleration can be, but it's not a life or death kind of thing. Maneuverability, however, is a 30% gain, and maneuverability is where things really, really pay off. So we're going to switch over to that. We'll take a look at the overall effects. Now, because of our hull change, we've lost 75 hit points. That's a pretty minor reduction. Our max shields have stayed the same at 500, so our overall health really hasn't been changed much. Our max speed has been reduced by a significant portion, as has our max acceleration. However, if you see our maneuverability, we've increased that incredibly. That means we can turn much tighter turns. And with that, we can be a better dogfighter. We can stay on target easier. It's harder for enemies to lose us when they try to maneuver away. When they come blasting past us at full speed, it's easier for us to slow down, turn around, get on their tail instead of allowing them to do the same to us. That increased maneuverability also makes dodging missiles and incoming fire much easier. So we'll take this one out for a quick little spin. So now you see, we have reduced our engine speed a little bit. When you boost the engines, it's not nearly as fast as your other A-Wings. Other A-Wings are going to get out into the battle much sooner than you will. But that doesn't matter. I don't want to be the first one in the battlefield. The only time you'll really feel this loss of speed is when you are, launching again after you've been killed and the battle is all the way across the sector. Then it takes you a while to actually get back out there and re-engage. I like to take that time, though, reassess what's going on in the battle. Where do I need to be? What do I need to be doing? Also allows you to take out some of those AI ties that are sometimes floating out there. So, speaking of ties, let's... TIE Fighters and TIE Reapers. So the big thing is, once you engage with an enemy target, you want to switch over to your blasters. Now these guys are all protected by shields. Oh, not in range yet. There we go.
I'm getting the hang of this.
These cannons are just great. Get them within that 600 meters, and you just unload. And you're going to tear through. Now, these are AIs, and they're weak. Now, again, your problem is you're limited to the 600 meters. That means at range, what you're going to do is you're going to take a second, fire off those quick-fire missiles.
Got a fighter on my tail.
Oh, we didn't turn at the right angle for him. So to get out of range, you can still fire off those missiles. You got that 400-meter range out there between the blasters and the missiles. Let's bring out some bombers. Bombers are great because they're nice and slow. Those missiles fire track really well.
Gotta shake this tail.
Now the one problem is, if they decide to run from you, they're going to run from you. And they're going to win. Doesn't matter what they are.
That was kind of fun.
You are going to be one of the slower ships out there. But that's okay. When you get to the battle, you're going to make your presence known. And the nice part, again, is being able to track.
They're behind me.
We can turn on a dime, get behind them, and re-engage as soon as possible.
See you later.
So that's our anti-fighter A-wing. We're built for maneuverability, so we can track even at high speeds fairly well. As you see, this is full speed, and we're able to spin and maneuver and track targets really well because of our high maneuverability. You lower your speed to 50%, you can turn even tighter. It almost feels like you've stopped dead because of your low speed. And you have enough acceleration that you can get back into the fight as soon as possible. I'll sometimes start off with this ship if there's a lot of other bombers on the team. Having that kind of fighter capability out there is nice. This will always be the ship I go to if we're on defense, because I want to take out enemy bombers before they're able to do a lot of damage to our ships. I'm going to want to take out as many AI fighters. I want to turn the tides back in our favor so that we can go on offense instead and our assets aren't in danger. So let's head back to the hangar, and we'll take a quick look at our secondary setup. Now, we've already talked about everything that's there, so now we just need to take a look at what we want to do. So our primary setup is for anti-fighter capabilities. There's sometimes, though, there's situations where I want to have those anti-fighter capabilities, but I also want to be able to do some damage to enemy capital ships. We're on the offense, but it's looking kind of like maybe by the time I get there, we're not going to have the advantage anymore. Then I still want to be able to fight the fighters. So, again, we're going to stick with the rapid-fire cannon.
You're gonna like that.
This does a lot of damage in a short period of time. It really hits them hard. It's great for laying damage against the mid-range capital ships. I'm going to keep my repair kit. That's an essential part of my kit every single time. Now for our right auxiliary, though, I'm going to switch to the Barrage Rockets. And there's a reason for this. The Barrage Rockets will do more damage to capital ships than anything else in your lineup. These things fire so fast and do a considerable amount of damage that you can just hold the trigger down and launch them until you run out. We're going to keep our Seeker Warhead countermeasures. We're going to reduce hostile lock time again. I'm willing to take the hit to health for that. Shields we're going to leave as our default shields. And engine, I'm still going to take the micro thrust engine. This is the one where maybe you want to do things differently. Maybe you want the speed to get out there towards the capital ship right away. Maybe you want to leave things as your base sublight engine. I like to keep that dogfighter capability just in case I need it. It's also nice for being able to do special secretive little attack runs against the capital ships' shield generators, taking out the Star Destroyer shield generators, their targeting system, things like that. Being able to tightly correct your aim will allow you to do some damage. So there is our... I should go back into that just for a second here. So there's our build for our anti-capital ship build for our A-Wings. We got a primary weapon with a rapid-fire cannon. We're using the barrage rockets. We have our Seeker Warhead countermeasures, our dampening hull still, and our micro-thrust engine. So again, the purpose of this build is to still keep us able to fight enemy ships, enemy fighters. But, oh, I didn't really want that guy. I want a raider out here. Since we're still in an A-wing, we still have considerable speed to get out there into the fight, even though we've reduced that speed significantly. We still have a lot of firepower. We can crank our weapon systems up with a boost. We have those rapid-fire cannons, so we're going to be able to do lots of damage. So we're going to sneak up into range here on this raider. We're going to get up behind him. Now the best thing you can do is remove the shields. So we're going to use our blast cannon here, our rapid fire cannon, and we're going to strip his shields down. Obviously this isn't real gameplay. What I want to show you here is the effect of our barrage rockets. So, now that we have our shields down, slow them down. You can just hold this down. It just fires the barrage rockets till you run out of ammo. Which is ridiculous. Now this is set at the easiest setting, just to show you, so I actually have twice as much ammo and things. It's kind of crazy, but that's how you want to use those barrage rockets. Let's see here. Let's pop back to the hangar quick and we'll launch again. And this time we are going to deploy the flagship. I wish they'd let you deploy the mid-range ships. Like I was saying, one thing you can do with this ship is get between the Star Destroyer and its shields. And in that gap, use it to do a lot of damage. You build up your speed boost and use it to approach the enemy ships, switch over and slow yourself down. Then you get in here with your barrage rockets and you just unload. Now of course this is on the easiest setting, so this is kind of ridiculous, but things wouldn't go that fast or be this effective. You're never going to be able to be that effective in an actual match, but that's not the point. The point was show you how you can do that. You can do the same thing down here too. And it'd slow down in time, but no, I can't find it. Oh, I'm right on top of it. You're never going to last this long in a normal fleet battle either. That's the other thing I like to do. When I get into position, I'll fire off my repair, even if I don't really need it. The missiles don't make bad just strafing runs either, because of their speed of fire. You can really do a lot of damage to various hull segments of the Star Destroyer by just unloading. So there you have a nice little guide to the various systems on the A-Wing and a couple really handy little builds, both an anti-fighter setup and a kind of quasi anti-fighter, anti-capital ship setup that's pretty good at making quick little strikes against capital ships and withdrawing, while still being a commendable anti-fighter asset. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and we'll be bringing you more.